How about the NFL's AFC South reigning defending champions, Tennessee Titans? Go to my Artie thing because I want to see it just because I made it and I want it to work.
Oh, here, gotcha,
there it is. Bang. Let's smash some helmets together, shall we? Bang! There it is. The over-under on wins on these guys is identical to the Colts from yesterday at 9.5. Now, the problem with that is these mother effers went 12-5 last year and won the AFC South. That's a very big discrepancy from one year to the next. And why is that? I don't know. Because when it comes to key losses and key gains, there's not a lot in the free agency market with these guys. They lost Julio, but it's technically they didn't lose Julio. They just didn't bring him back. They lost Anthony Ferschker, but replaced him with Austin Hooper. So that's, to me, I think Hooper's actually better.
Yep.
They lost A.J. Brown in the trade to the Philadelphia Eagles on draft day. And in that, they turned the 18th overall pick with that trade into Treylon Burks from Arkansas. So you look at the Titans team, and obviously it's led by Ryan Tannehill, but then the Titans go out of their way in the third round to draft Malik Willis out of Liberty. And everybody's saying, okay, third round, he's not going to be a get in there and go type guy. This is going to be more of a project, right? So then you have the running game of Derrick Henry and then Hassan Haskins from Michigan. That's the Michigan running back from last year. He's backing up Henry. The receiving core is where I kind of get a little because when they trade away A.J. Brown, fine. You got your draft picks and draft capital back, fine. But right now, Tannehill's throwing to Robert Woods, Treylon Burks, and then a bunch of unproven guys. So that's alarming to me. And Robert Woods coming off injury, so this passing attack, and I know this game with the Titans is completely run down your throat because Henry will beat you to dust, right? And I understand that. But this offense, to me, is going to have some trouble scoring points as lucrative as they did last year. They went from having A.J. Brown and Julio Jones to having neither of those guys. So they're both gone. Their defense, pretty good. Harold Landry III, he's good. He's their weak side linebacker. These guys run a 3-4. And I'm very impressed with Coach
Vrabel?
Yep, Vrabel. I have these mental lapses here. Vrabel, Bud Dupree, Farley III coming back. Fulton is the other side corner. So their defense is okay. I want to say they have some playmakers out there. But here's my only gripe with this team. And I could say the same about the Cowboys because of their non-ability to spend in free agency. They have $11 million in space right now, the Tennessee Titans do, right? Tannehill, this year, $38 million against the cap. Henry, 15, justified. And Robert Woods, they gave $10 million to. They have 8 players on their roster right now, 8 of their 53, above making $5 million a year. Everybody else is making pennies. So they are obviously in the midst of I don't want to say a rebuild, but a very young and unpaid team.
Well, this is how they're going to do it all the time in Tennessee because
it seems to be that way.
It's less of a draw free agent wise than I thought it would be, being that it's like Nashville and that whole scene.
It's on the come up now.
It's definitely on the come up a little bit, but I don't think it's really a football town. It's more of a music town. So that aside, Mike Vrabel is the key here because when you look up and down the roster, I think lack of superstar talent has been the one thing that's caused this team to be overlooked year in and year out, and we're all about to do it right now, right?
Correct.
We're all about to overlook this team right now. I know I am. I've been one of the biggest defenders of Tannehill over the last 3 or 4 off seasons going in, saying he's super underrated. He gets it done.
He's serviceable.
And then last year, he kind of, made me eat my words a little bit. He didn't play well. And more importantly, he didn't play well in the playoffs.
Now, is that the reason why Malik Willis is now in town? Because maybe this is a trend?
You were the number 1 seed, and
I think that they might have had him. When you're talking about the quarterback position, backup quarterback is super important in the NFL.
Yes,
right. It really, really is. It's the most. It's like it's like a punt, and nobody thinks about it when we're analyzing a team because the idea that if he has to play, it's like the wheels already fell off. But bridging the gap for a team that could be a contender. We saw what happened with the Philly with that Philly run when Nick Foles, backup quarterback,
plug and
won
play,
a Super Bowl. Hostetler, it's happened throughout history.
Danny White,
Malik Willis, they might have had him ranked as a first-round grade, and they see him in the 3rd round. They're like, look, we don't really want a quarterback, but we have no choice here. Very similar. The Packers didn't want to draft a quarterback.
But they didn't know what the future held in
I'm not
Rodgers.
talking about with Love.
Oh.
I'm talking
I
about
get what you're saying.
with
Yeah,
Rodgers.
you need a-
Like,
that gem fell right into their laps.
but that's my point.
And they had
I don't
Favre, who
think
was
that they
aging.
went into that draft being like, you know what, maybe we'll get Rodgers 24. They probably had him going like in the top 5. And then when he's there, they're like, well, we got to take him. It could have been a similar situation. I don't think it means that the Tannehill showed last year that they might need to look elsewhere, but I think that there's a longer leash than people would think based on the draft.
I don't
pick.
think he gets benched at all this year.
Yeah, no, he's
That's
gonna
not
have
going
to
happen.
play
This is
really
Tannehill's team.
bad or get injured. And if Malik Willis comes in and plays well, then we could talk a different conversation.
Now
But-
there is conversation right now saying that the Titans went 12-5, and they didn't even have Derrick Henry half the year. You know what I mean? So
Believe me,
that's a testament. But again, they had AJ Brown, they had Julio Jones, they had a team that was gelling.
I think-
offensively without him. They had a couple guys that come in there, run the ball very well. Well, actually they had 2 backups. Their names are remissing me. But if you smash them together, you were getting Derrick Henry. Like that's the kind of style. I think it was Foreman. I could be wrong on that one, but
Dante Foreman.
I don't think
maybe?
he was a Titan. Anyway, they had 2 running backs who I said if you complemented each other, you had the complete back of Derrick Henry. That's what they had last year. But therefore they didn't lose a lot of games because they had a similar attack.
Well, yeah, like they didn't have to change anything up. They weren't gonna look. They were a worse team without Derrick Henry. Obviously, anybody is, but their defense stepped up. Everybody looked at their defense as being bottom 3 in football going into last football.
They just weren't touted. They weren't talked about.
And for good reason. They weren't good. But last year they played crazy physical. I forget what the guy's name is. It always fucking escapes me. Is it Dupree?
Yeah, Bud Dupree.
He used to play for the Steelers. I'm a big Bud Dupree guy.
So Bud Dupree is now there. He wasn't there last year.
He was
right?
there last
Was
year.
he? No,
I thought he got traded this
I think he
offseason.
got traded this offseason.
I could be wrong.
But I could be
last
wrong.
year was his first
But it's
year.
not just Bud
Credibility.
Dupree. There's
Yeah.
somebody else that played really well for Tennessee up front last year. Crowley maybe is his name. Anyway, sorry to all Titans
Landry
fans.
III was also a very good, serviceable
But
weak
it's really
side
about their
linebacker.
defense.
He played last year for Tennessee. It's Bud Dupree.
He did?
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
There's got to be another edge guy. But anyway,
I'll look for it.
look, this is the whole point. The Titans are full of guys that nobody knows their name,
Yep.
but they've won 10 or 12
He's right,
games.
though.
They've been the 1 seed. They've made fairly deep playoff runs and upset some teams that they probably shouldn't have. I'm talking about Baltimore and Lamar's MVP year. But they haven't really gotten over the hump. And the window has closed. Their roster has gotten worse. I don't think losing Julio is a big thing because they didn't really have him anyway. A.J. Brown, he's a solid player. Treylon Burks is supposedly like the next A.J. Brown. I don't know how you could really have a next somebody that played 3 years, but you get it. Like that's his pro comparison. And they drafted the guy. I think they did the right thing there. They offered him a
Well, if
contract.
they're getting rid of their best guy, you better be drafting a receiver.
Well, no, I'm talking about with the A.J. Brown situation. They weren't going to give him that contract. They just couldn't do it. That's not how the Titans
look,
operate.
exactly how I just said.
So they weren't going to do that, and then they gave him the opportunity to go somewhere else, and they drafted it. That's how you're supposed to do it. The 49ers did it when they traded Buckner, and they tried to work out the Kinlaw situation. It just didn't work out. But that's how you do things. You move on from guys, and you replace them in the draft.
Yeah, Landry is the
Harold
other
Landry
edge.
is the other
I told
edge.
you, Landry the third. Anyway, let's break down their schedule, shall we? The 2022 Tennessee Titans, obviously, they start off with the New York Football Giants at Tennessee. To me, that's a win. If everybody's healthy going in, they're not. The Giants are not as good as Tennessee. It's just the way it is. Then they go at Buffalo, home for Vegas, at Indy. First 4 games, to me, you better win 2. You better win 2 if you want to run with this division. Then in the next 4, well, the next 3 at least, Washington, another early bye for another team in the South, as their bye comes in week 6. So you got to tread the entire way after week 6. There was a team yesterday, I think, was it yesterday? The Colts or somebody else this week had a bye in week 14. So it's
it's deep.
deep, you know,
we're
but when
thinking-
you're 6 and you got to play, so you play 5 games, you got to play 12 straight games after
then the
that. No
playoffs,
breaks.
dog.
And then the playoffs, right.
Sometimes it works out. Sometimes
It does.
doesn't.
When you're on a run, yeah, sure, it
Or
works.
like if you have a week 6 bye and your quarterback goes down week 5, it's like word. Thank God for this week 6 bye.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, maybe.
So it could work
So
out.
we got them 3-2, maybe 4-1 right now.
Yeah, all right. Into the bye. I mean, week 5, they got Washington. Then they go on their bye. It's at Washington. I'm giving them a win anyway. The bye, then they come home. They play Indy. I think they do within the division is they're going to split with the Colts and the Jaguars, and they're going to sweep the Texans. So give me 3 wins within the division. They go 3-3 within the division somehow. They'll probably lose the away games, win the home games, right? Except for Houston, they beat them both. Ready for this stretch of week 9 at Kansas City. Then they go back to home to play Denver.
4-2.
Say what?
4-2 in the division. If they split and then sweep.
That's what I meant. 4-2. So that's 4 wins here, as I can't do math here on a Thursday. So anyway, week 9 is tough because week 9 through 12 at Kansas City, back home to play the Broncos, who that's a very big question mark. We'll see what Russ does. By the way, very cringeworthy red carpet, by the way, for him on the ESPYs last week. He's such a cringeworthy human being. Anyway,
Stay away from the ESPYs, people.
Yeah, at Kansas City,
everybody.
At Kansas City, at Kansas City, back home for Denver. Then they go to Green Bay, and then back home for Cincy. It's a tough stretch. Tough 4-game stretch right there for the Tennessee Titans.
Tough 5-game stretch, really, because at Eagles, at Philly on the back end of that.
That's not going to be a walk in the park, and potential revenge game for AJ Brown. So maybe he goes off, right? Then the back end of weeks 14 on, they got the Jaguars, which I think they'll get that win because it's at home. At the Chargers, not easy, folks. Not at the end of the year. Then they go back home to play the Texans. Dallas comes into town week 17, where it's going to mean a lot for both teams for the division races, their respective division races, because I don't think Dallas runs away with the East, and I don't think the Titans can. They got to win all these games at the end, and then they finish the year at Jacksonville, in which I think the Jags might take that game, considering let's see what's at stake. I got right now, I guess you got to add a win because I had the wrong math there. With the over/under being 9.5, I got them at 10, but I'm really leaning on 9.
There's no way that I'm finding 10 wins here.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm leaning heavy on. I'm gonna, retract 9, 9 and 8 for the Tennessee Titans this year. 3-game separation from last year's record. And I understand. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Derrick Henry ain't the best running back in football. He's one of them.
It says that they're the 24th strength of schedule rank. To me, it feels like it's way harder.
Look at the teams they got to play. Cincy, Green Bay. The Chargers, the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Bills. How is it 24th? They got a lot of teams on there that are good, or at least going to be good, or being touted to be good.
And to me, their number one issue is wide receiver.
I mean, also when you look at it like this, ready? We're looking at Denver as a tough team, right? And we're looking at the Chargers as a tough team, and we're looking at the Colts as a tough team twice on the schedule. None of those teams made the playoffs last year, and that's what they're basing it off of.
Right. Last year's record.
So they're all those teams are being looked at as like really good teams going into this season, and that's how we're looking at them. I mean, I'm not 100%. Sold on Denver, but
so 9 wins. So officially on this Thursday, are we sitting here and saying the Colts will win the AFC South?
Yeah, I think the Colts are in the driver's seat. Okay. 0-0 in the driver's seat.
Tennessee make the playoffs, though.
It's going to be tough when that AFC West, man. I think everybody in the AFC West gets 10 wins.
I don't think so. How about that? I think that the Titans are going to struggle a little bit. Like I said, their window is closed. They didn't even have one to begin with, really, their window. But one thing goes wrong with Derrick Henry. Do you think that they're able to withstand that again?
Not this year.
No A.J. Brown.
Not this year.
With
no
a rookie
way.
as their lead guy. I mean, Robert Woods is still coming off an ACL.
Look what we saw from Burks in training camp. He couldn't even breathe.
Didn't they acquire Odell because Robert Woods tore his ACL?
Right.
So it's like Robert Woods, we're talking about.
And then the Titans gave him $10 million.
I'm a big Robert Woods fan. I think he plays good football. Even when he's not getting thrown to, he's a good blocker. He does it all. Don't get me wrong. But an ACL that you're not ready from, and it's not like he's being leaned on as the number 2 when he got Cooper Kupp or 30 other guys on the offense like he had in the Rams. I don't know. I'm not buying. I'm selling hard on the Titans this season.
Okay.